This is Joshua Hart here for Seconds Out. Delighted today to be joined by top trainer, my good friend Xavier Miller. Xavier, appreciate your time here on this Saturday afternoon. How is everything, my friend? You all good?
Yeah, really good night of boxing last night. So yeah, it's all good at the
Very,
moment.
very good to hear. We'll just get straight into things. We'll talk about your stable. Obviously, we've got to get some light on those
Oh yeah,
young fighters working very hard. Obviously, spoke to Ahmed Hatim a couple of weeks ago now. We're all ready to go ahead of December 7th.
yeah, everything's going well. All fighters say the same thing that training camp's going well. So yeah, he's doing everything he's supposed to do to get ready for this fight, and yeah, look forward to seeing him on the big stage next year. But he's got to go get over this challenge first, and yeah, he's looking good, looking ready to go.
And you also obviously got Yusuf Kamari out in a big fight soon as well. What's the latest with Yusuf? What's going on with that fight?
Yep, he's still fighting on the card for the English title. Opponent's yet to be announced, but yeah, he'll be fighting for the English title on the 7th. And got quite a few fighters going out just before that. 30th of November, Amar Piani and Ergul Elizaj, the heavyweight. He'll be having this third fight. He's fighting again 2 weeks after that on the 14th of December. A week before that, the long return of K Prosper. Yeah, his last fight was against Sandor Martin in 2021. So he's going to make a comeback. He said he wants to have one more go at it. I think he's obviously like encouraged by all the money these guys are getting on these Riyadh cards and so on. So he says, listen, that was my last fight. I don't want to go out like that. So he's got a six rounder and then probably back in a big fight. On the same day, I've got Kasim Keani, younger brother to Amar. He's on a Steve Goodwin show as well. Yeah, it's just a very busy stable. Actually, the day before that, that's the 23rd, the 22nd, Friday 22nd, Emmanuel Zion is he's got a six rounder as well. So yeah, it's been a good year so far. I want to finish the year with a couple of belts. Hopefully, keep my fingers crossed that's what will happen. But really looking forward to getting back into big time boxing next year. Took a little step away, carried on building the guys that are in my gym, and yeah, looking to be back up there next year for sure.
Obviously, you mentioned there all the fight dates you've got coming up. It seems a very active stable. For you as a trainer, what's that like? Having one show in one place on a Friday night, and then after that fight's on the Saturday night, you get obviously have your rest, everything, then it's straight off again to another show. What is that like for a trainer?
I feel, for me personally, I feel like I'm living my dream because as we spoke about in the last interview, I actually got into boxing. How hard I worked and invest a lot of money in myself, traveling here and everywhere. And now, you got a show on Friday, a show on Saturday, and you got another guy going on next week. I'm doing exactly what I love, and predicted that we'd be exactly where we are now. The only thing that changed anything, the course, was COVID, but that was the same for everybody. But apart from that, honestly, it couldn't have gone any better. This is what I've always wanted to do, and just very happy. I love all levels of boxing. I love domestic fights. I love world title fights, European fights. They all feel exactly the same to me. I just love being involved in boxing.
Yes, I think it's a beautiful message there. Just saying, so you mentioned investing the money in yourself to get to where you want to be, and
Yeah,
in a way, I kind of see a lot of myself and my journey and your story as well. In you love the sport that much that you start paying for yourself to go to this place, go to that place, just to
absolutely.
follow the sport you love, and it shows that the hard work pays off, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. It's always the best way. It feels different when you've put all the work in, and then when you get there, you got there because you deserve it. It feels different. It's hard sport, but if you really put the time into it, like it's fulfilling. Obviously with the amateurs at my club as well, getting a lot of kids off the street. A lot of the kids that we had back then in our amateur club have now turned pro with us. So we've all gone on this journey together. Nothing feels better than that.
What's it like balancing, obviously having your pros but your amateurs as well? Because there's always that big talking point of the professional game is so different to the amateur game. What is it like having to adapt your style from 1 minute coaching a lot of professionals to then go into the amateurs?
I think it's strange for me because I came from professional boxing gyms. I didn't really get involved in amateurs too much. But then me and my business partner decided to open an amateur boxing gym. So I've kind of learned exactly how amateur boxing works, how to run an amateur boxing club. So yeah, that part is new for me. The professional side of it, I've always been around good guys in professional boxing, so that's not really It hasn't really been a problem. That's been an easy, a smooth transition. I think the amateurs is actually more difficult for me. Um,
Really?
yeah, I didn't understand. There's a lot of things that you need to understand and be involved in it to realize that if you don't affiliate yourself with certain people, it can be very difficult, especially as a new club, because you're going up against clubs that have been around for 40, 50 years. And when you're the new kid on the block, you have to work really, really hard to get the respect. And that's what me and Nick did. And yeah, I enjoyed that part of the journey. I think I spent about maybe 6, 7 years in amateur boxing. So yeah, I really enjoyed it and got to meet some good fighters on the way. Some that are at my gym now. So might have never met them if I didn't actually get involved in the amateurs at that time. So grateful for it.
Oh, it's amazing to hear, but obviously want to switch, talk about the big topics going on in boxing right now. It's been, while a
Yeah,
bit more
Nick.
of a quiet week for fight week wise, there's still a lot of news as always. I think one of the big talking points of the week, we sort of last Sunday now, we got the news that Frank Warren and Queensbury Promotions are going to be heading over to the Zone from next year in what I've said to people in what seems to be a revolutionary change. The two rival promoters under the same broadcaster, and it opens up a lot more opportunity to see these cross promotion fights. What do you make of this move from Frank Warren?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think it just goes to show, the casual fans and some people in boxing, they really do believe that a lot of fighters are scared of each other. It's just not the case. You offer enough money, they'll fight. And now, you know, you got the promoters battling with each other, and then this one doesn't want to give away this, and now they've come together. That's a hurdle the fighters don't have to cross. It's made life a lot easier. As long as both parties agree on a good purse, we're all good to go. So I think it's the best thing that could happen. I mean, imagine everything on one platform. I think that you'd have, let's say, the Zone did, market boxing as though they owned and just brought everything together in one platform. And then you've got the small hall boxing, and the small hall boxing shows seem to be doing something very similar. You've got TM14 working with Nielsen. I think it's a great thing. I think if these guys, these two or three good, really good promoters, like Goodwin, obviously one of the better ones, if these guys come together, they could do more regular shows. It's better for the boxers.
Hmm.
And I think it's going to be better for boxing in the long run. The Riyadh season's been great. They're kind of neutral and bringing all these guys together. It's a really good thing. It's a wave. It's not the first time we've kind of come across this sort of thing, but I just hope it's here to stay this time because I think we really need to see these guys fighting each other. It's better for the sport. There's nothing wrong with taking a loss against a great fighter and then coming back and trying again. I like what Warren's doing, especially with like Denzel Bentley. Known Denzel for a long time, but obviously he's done really well. British title, the hiccup with the Felix Cash fight. Then he comes back, gets a great knockout. Now he's involved in another good fight with another good fighter, Brad. Um, yeah, this is what boxing should be about. You shouldn't get ridiculed because you've got a loss. You tested yourself, the best at domestic and then the best at world. And if you can't short, just go again. And that's what boxing should be. So yeah, I think it's really good. I think it's really good.
Would you say we're in a bit of a transitional period, as I think we're going to see a lot of movement with broadcasters over the next year or so, not just with Frank Warren, but we know that Sky's deal with Boxer comes to an end in the next couple months. We know that GBM Sports, their deal with the Zone expires at the end of the year. And with them being a originally seen as a small hall promoter, but they're kind of bursting through now and getting to that stage where they almost can dibble dabble and get involved with the big promotions now.
Yeah,
Do you think this is going to be a bit of a transitional period where we see a lot of movement?
I do. I do think so. I think it's the way to go. I think it's the way forward. I think the Zone at the time, I think they were the front runners. They were kind of brought boxing at to the forefront. I think everybody else was playing catch up. I think everyone understands how powerful that is now, and everyone's now getting on board. So yeah, I think it's a great thing. I do see a lot of other promoters coming together and sitting down and saying, "Listen, we this could be a lot better if we work together," and that's only going to benefit the boxers. And obviously this is something that I'm obviously very interested in because I do manage three fighters that are young that I'm building. And yeah, I want to get involved with these other promoters and get these guys on, and they're all good ticket sellers. So yeah, it opens the doors for all of us. So it's better for boxing, full stop. It's just like with these YouTubers. I think the YouTubers is great for boxing. It's more eyes on the sport. I don't know how anyone could see anything negative about it. It's just a different side to it, isn't it? It's just a different side.
Obviously, you mentioned the YouTube side of boxing. Next Friday we do see a a big fight, and I'm still going to stand on this statement that I say I can't believe in 2024 I'd be saying that Jake Paul is going to be fighting Mike Tyson of all people. Obviously, I know they originally had a scheduled date back in July, but moved back now to November 15th. It is a fully sanctioned professional fight, 8 2-minute rounds. What do you make of it? Are you going to be tuning in next Friday or?
Definitely not. I don't like it at all. Um, when Mike came toward the end of his reign, you know, he a couple of times he just was knocked down and sat there and just knew that it was over. Danny Williams would fight. I can't remember they fought another big guy, and he just quit in that fight as well because he knew it just wasn't there. I think if he gets hit with the right kind of shot or gets tired, he doesn't need it anymore. And he's the age he's at now. It's dangerous. I don't like the idea of it at all. I hope this is wrestling and it's just all staged. I wouldn't have a problem. I'm not into wrestling, but I wouldn't have a problem with it in this scenario because I don't want to see guys at that age get hurt. The other thing is you don't want to encourage the other guys that are 55, 60 years old to get back into boxing.
Hmm.
That's what we don't want to do. Really, like you got to look after these fighters, especially our legends. We've got to look after them. So hopefully, Jake's been good for the sport. So hopefully this is just stays and then, both guys get to make their money and just walk away.
How frustrating is it, especially for someone like Jake who had to fight really hard just to earn respect from the boxing community when he
As
first
he should.
started?
Mm,
When he first started, obviously the whole YouTube boxing scene was ridiculed. Obviously, they've built up their respect, and I think people have started to see it in a way that this isn't the boxing we know and love, but this is a new angle to watch your boxing if it gets people interested. And
mm.
then he starts going on this run where he's fighting these MMA fighters and not getting the respect. Then he starts fighting boxers who may have not fought in a while, and it's like he's starting to earn that respect. Like, okay, he's trying to challenge himself here. And I've seen a lot of people say he's almost just shot himself in the foot by then going from fighting these boxers to Mike Tyson, who's a 58-year-old man. What do
I,
you make of it?
I think it's not fair to judge him so quickly. I think if you look at all the prospects coming up, everyone's fighting journeyman. I know journeyman, that word is used differently in America,
Hmm.
but everyone's using those as learning fights. Like it's like you don't want him to have a period where he had learning fights. Then how's he supposed to get better? You just want to throw him into big fights, and he's not clearly not ready for that sort of thing. Like he's actually done things the way that the boxers now need to do it. Like he built a platform, built a name, so he's got already got the fanfare, and now he's got involved in the sport. Whereas we've got a lot of good boxers that don't want to tap into social media, don't want to do the ticket sales, and then complain when things don't go the way they want it to go. Like you have to create a brand first. That's what he's done, and I think a lot of boxers should look at that. And on top of that, he's helping a lot of professional boxers.
Hmm.
He's giving them a platform where they can get good paydays and they can be seen. I think he's been really, really good for boxing. I find it strange for anyone to say anything negative about what he's doing. A lot of these boxers wouldn't have got the opportunities they got without him. They might have eventually got there, but you're there now because of him. So yeah, hats off to him. Honestly, I think it's great what he's doing, and even bringing Mike back. I mean, even Mike just getting back in the gym and hitting pads and hitting bags. We're all excited about watching that anyway because of how great he was when he first came on the scene. Um, but yeah, just I hope they just manage it well. They manage it well.
And just moving away from obviously Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, a fight that not everyone's cup of tea. Some may tune in, some may not. But looking back at the top of the heavyweight division, obviously we've seen a lot of talk over the last couple of weeks about whether we're going to see a rematch between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois. It seems very, very likely now that we will not be seeing a rematch just yet, which does leave a little slot for Daniel Dubois, for someone to get that opportunity. Who do you believe is the front runner? Who would you like to see Daniel Dubois face next?
I like seeing fight Fabio Woodley. Uh, the reason is because I think Fabio's kind of done things the right way. It's been a difficult start, obviously not coming from the amateurs and having that amateur background, coming from white collar boxing, but he's already overachieved. And I think the kind of fights that he's been given has prepared him well for this sort of a situation. I mean, he's already won the British. Um, Obviously, a look at the European will be good, but if you don't get the European, obviously naturally it's a world title shot. It's a voluntary defense from Daniel, so that makes a lot of sense. It'll be in the UK. As long as you've got a really, really strong undercard, you could get a great venue. I think that could work if it's managed well. And yeah, I just think Fabio deserves a shot. I think it's a sensible defense for Daniel. You obviously have to favour Daniel because of his experience against the top guys. But why not? Why not give it to a UK guy and have a UK fight? Why not for Daniel? I think it makes a lot of sense. Um, Daniel's gone through like the. It's not to say that he hasn't boxed like the Hergoviches and the Baby Millers and so on. So he has boxed those kind of guys on top of boxing the likes of Usyk and Joshua. So you couldn't say that he doesn't deserve this kind of a fight. So to me, that would be my first choice. Second choice, maybe Parker, but Parker, I don't really find Parker that exciting to watch, though. I'll be honest with you. I don't really find him exciting to watch, but I think Parker, yes, he's on a good run of form. And before Joyce lost to Chisora, I would have said a rematch with Joyce would have made a lot of sense, to try and get that one back. Um, I don't know what values in the fight now, but I like boxers if they lost a fight to go back and try and avenge it, like what Lennox did, like what Evander Holyfield did. I like when guys try and do that, like the Barrera Morales of the world, Arturo Gatti, Mickey, and Ward. I like guys trying to get back. You know what I mean? So whoever you lost to, you should do your best to try and get back in there with them. But yeah, I think three guys, yeah, they'd be my first choice.
Obviously, you mentioned wanting to see fighters try get that one back after a defeat and go for a rematch. Do you feel then we will see a rematch in the future between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois?
Uh, I don't know, possibly, possibly, but maybe the Fury and Usyk winner is a bigger fight for Joshua, and he'll probably want to end his career fighting, the best guys. He's fought Usyk, he's never boxed Fury, didn't really get a chance to fight Wilder. I think Joshua will need to fight a Fury or Wilder really before he retires. Got a very good resume. He's given us some great fights. Brought UK boxing back to the forefront. He's been amazing for the sport. He really has. But I'd like to see him fight at least one of those two guys before he walks away. Otherwise, you feel like you haven't really, fulfilled your full potential. You can't say the same of Derek or Dillian. Those guys, they fought everybody they could fight. Derek's who hasn't Derek fought. So when it's all over, he knows that I fought everybody. That's really how you want to end it. But obviously not to a point where it's going to be dangerous. Fight guys in and around your own era, definitely.
Would you say it's better in the position? Obviously, you mentioned the likes of Derek Chisora, who's kind of fought everyone out there that there is to fight. Would you say it's probably more impressive for a fighter to end their career, okay, with a few losses on the record, but they can say that they challenged themselves against everyone. They pushed for the best fights every time. Or would you say it's better to maybe be in a position where you've retired with a lot less losses and maybe picked up a few world titles, but there'd always be those fights that are spoken about that we never got. For example, Fury versus Joshua.
Yeah.
Do you feel you'd rather have a career where you fight everyone but maybe not do as well, or a career where you win a world title but there'll always be that little ridicule that you didn't fight this person?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for me to talk about the 80s and 90s, obviously that's the era that I love. So, and all those guys did that anyway. But if we fast forward to today, let's look, for example, at around the lightweight division. For me, Devin Haney is out of the four. Well, you can say 4 or 5. You've got Devin, Tio, Shakur, Tank. I would put Devin at number one because he's fought Lomachenko. He beat him, very close fight. He's become undisputed and he's moved up and beat Regis. Then I'd go with Tio because Tio again beat Lomachenko in a very close fight. Didn't really get the title as undisputed, but everyone knew really he should have held all the belts. And then he's moved up and beat Josh Taylor. So, and he fought the likes of Sandor Martin, who's very very good. Then then I'd have to go to Shakur and Tank. To me, then they'd be fighting for third place. I mean, But the only problem I've got is that Tank is now 30, and Tio and Devin have got a better resume. That to me is a problem. I mean, you're a lightweight. Lightweights don't have the longest of careers. You really should have fought a Tio, a Devin, or a Shakur by now. And I think he's going to need to. I mean, he needs to really fight all three to really have the kind of legacy that he'd like to leave. If he doesn't, again, I don't think it's a good look. I think Devin should be respected for what he's doing, and obviously with the Ryan fight, but at least he boxed him and got up 3 times and got to the final bell. You know, he never stopped trying. You know, I base fighters on character because he's testing himself. So I would much rather a fighter finish their career with some losses but fought everybody than another fighter finish undefeated and didn't fight the other big guys in and around them. I'm not for that kind of boxing.
Absolutely. And then just moving away from this and looking at Conor Benn, obviously we had the announcement that he has been cleared of any wrongdoing by the NAPD, while UCAD still have 21 days to appeal this decision. As it stands, we're going to see Conor Benn box in the UK again, hopefully soon. Um, just first of all, what do you make of, I guess, these 2 years that we've been going through and talking about this now? It seems they're coming to an end, aren't they?
I think this is probably one of the only topics that I don't like speaking on in boxing. I never liked the fight when it first announced. I didn't like the idea of Eubank having to lose that kind of weight.
Mm.
You know, it makes me think back to when De La Hoya fought Pacquiao. He thought maybe that was going to be a gimme because Pacquiao was so small, but even when De La Hoya walked up to the first round, you know, his legs look so thin. He hasn't been down that weight for years. It's dangerous. It's easier to come up in weight than drain yourself. It is extremely dangerous doing that. Um, so I don't like the fight for that reason. When it first was announced, I didn't like the idea, and now everyone seems to be coming around the idea that yes, it's not a good idea. Chris coming down that much in weight. Well, then you want to do it at, is it middleweight?
Yeah, they want Conor to step up to
Conor Benn's not a
160.
middleweight. It's like you can't find an even balance because at that weight it's a lot. I mean, really, Conor Benn punches should be bouncing off you back up at that weight. There's weight classes for a reason, but that depends what Chris has got left. So Chris would be favourite to me in that fight. I don't know Chris. I've met Ben quite a few times. I like him. I think he's the kind of guy, as both of them anyway. I think they're the kind of kids that will fight anybody. They seem to have that about them. But I just don't like the fight. I'm sorry, I don't want to upset anybody by saying it, but I really don't like the idea of this fight. It just leaves a bad taste. We've had some bad tragedies in boxing before, and there's just something that's not right about this fight. I think I'd rather both guys go their own separate ways. I'd rather see Ben fight the other welterweights. You've got Jerome Boots Ennis. There's a lot of good guys out there he could fight. I mean, Echo Esserman in the UK, that's another great fight for him. And there's a lot of guys he could fight. I know they want to go off the family names and so on, but it doesn't need to happen. They're both at completely different weights. It doesn't need to happen. It's like they're forcing it and making it a thing. Like you don't have to force it, really. They've got other options.
Listen, you mentioned the fight not needing to be a thing and almost saying that it's being forced a little bit. One thing that I've been asking people over the last few weeks since this fight has become a big talking point again is, do you feel the perspective of the fight has changed in the sense that when it was first made in October 2022, it was family history, it was fighting for your family name, and now it seems that the value of the fight has changed in the sense that the dads aren't necessarily as involved now in this build up, and it is a lot more personal due to the circumstances that have happened over the last 2 years. Do you feel that is what has happened, where it's become a lot more between Eubank Jr. and Ben now as a personal thing?
I think you're making a good point. I think it has, but I didn't even think of it that way. But it has almost become personal.
Mm.
Um, I preferred when the dads were more involved. You know, Chris spoke very, you know, clearly about the issues he had with the fight. He didn't seem to like the idea of the fight at all, and to me he was right. Um, yeah, uh, yeah. There's just something not right about this fight, man. It's not right.
Do you feel this something needs to be done, and people need to maybe be a little bit more realistic and say, listen, Conor Benn's a 147-pound welterweight fighter, and Chris Eubank Jr. is a 160-pound fighter, but when we see, we saw the altercation they had in the hotel a few weeks back in Riyadh when Eubank was making weight, and he did look very drained.
Yep.
And it's a Eubank that looks like he could be going up to super middleweight soon. So if that happens, there's a 20 pound weight difference there.
Yeah, it's just not. I said even probably at this stage in Chris's life, it's probably difficult for him to make this weight right now. He probably would be more beneficial for him to move to make another move up. It's just something just off, man. This something not right with this fight at all. And the with Virgil Ortiz and Boots and all those guys out there, there's some good fights. Even Ben v Haney would be a good fight.
Mm.
I just don't understand why they just don't like look at other options really.
For Eubank Jr., see, we know there's a lot of options out there for Conor Benn. He is in Philadelphia this weekend, as a recording this anyway, for the Jerome Boots Ennis fight. But for Eubank Jr., what options do you see out there for him to fight?
I know a lot of people don't like it, but I personally would like to see Canelo box in the UK, and I don't see why it wouldn't be Eubank.
Mm.
I think it'd be a fun fight. And no one could say that Chris doesn't go in there and throw a lot of punches and give it his all. It's just fun to watch, isn't he? He's not technically the best, but he does, especially when he first came on the scene, multiple combinations. Like, he was a bit of a beast in there. I think he'd give it a go. Obviously, Canelo would beat him, but it'll be fun to watch, and we get to see Canelo in the UK. So yeah, I think that's an option for him. Uh, you really want to go for the biggest fights at this stage, don't you? You can go, you make the most amount of money, and that would make a lot of sense for Chris Eubank.
Well, Xavi, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time today. Appreciate it as always.
You're more
And
than welcome, bro.
hopefully we see, obviously you mentioned at the start, getting back into big time boxing. Hopefully
Oh
we see
yeah,
it very
next
soon.
year. Next year we back.
100%.
Have
Xavier,
a good day,
appreciate
brother.
it.
Take care, man.
Thank you very much.